You're listening to an excerpt from the song Ye Shepherds Tell Me by 18th century composer Joseph Matzingi. The song goes, "A wreath around her head she wore, carnation, lily, lily, rose." Catchy, right? Well, when this guy heard this song, he was inspired to paint this piece. He named it, you guessed it, Carnation, Lily, Lily, Rose. And he only worked on it for 2 minutes a day. If you aren't familiar, this is John Singer Sargent. You may have seen his work before. He painted this mural in the Boston Public Library, the official portrait for President Theodore Roosevelt. Oh yeah, and all of these. Sargent was the leading portrait painter of his generation. But before the fame, the fortune, and the perfectly posed people in fancy outfits, Sargent's career almost ended. But before we get into that, we need to go back in time. Like way back. Oop, too far. It's January 12, 1856 in Florence, Italy, and a baby boy was just born. Let's name him John. John Singer Sargent was born to American parents Dr. Fitzwilliam Sargent and Mary Newbold Singer. Growing up in Florence, Sargent was immersed in European art and culture. He even spoke French, Italian, German, and English. While it's no surprise to us that this environment would have inspired Sargent to become an artist, his father had actually hoped his son would pursue a career in the Navy. But when Sargent turned 18 years old, he packed his bags and moved to Paris, France to study at the École des Beaux-Arts. And after completing his education, Sargent exhibited a selection of his portrait paintings at the Paris Salon in 1881, with 2 of them earning distinction. The first was an honorable mention for this portrait of his teacher, Carolus Duran, and the second was a second-class medal for this portrait of Madame Ramon Subercaseaux. Earning a second-class medal meant that Sargent could exhibit at future salons without ever needing to submit to the jury. Okay, now here's where things went wrong. After moving to his own studio in Paris, Sargent began to work on his next painting, but this one was a little different. Unlike most of his portraits where clients sought him out, Sargent sought out a woman named Virginie Amélie Gautreau, and basically begged to paint her. He was so determined. He even wrote to a friend saying, "I have a great desire to paint her portrait and have reason to think she would allow it and is waiting for someone to propose this homage to her beauty. If you are bien avec elle and will see her in Paris, you might tell her that I am a man of prodigious talent." So after all that flattery and persistence, in 1883, Gautreau finally replied, "Okay. Remember when I said that Sargent didn't need to submit his work to the jury to get into the Paris Salon? Yeah, well, lucky him. Because 1 year later, in 1884, Sargent proudly exhibited his now infamous portrait of Madame Gautreau titled Madame X. And then the reviews poured in. To Sargent's surprise, they were bad. Like, hide your painting and flee the country bad. And that's exactly what he did. With a tarnished reputation and a painting he couldn't sell, Sargent packed up and moved to England. This change of scenery turned out to be exactly what he needed, because it was here that Sargent painted the piece that would save his career, Carnation, Lily, Lily, Rose. And he approached this work in a way he had never done before. Here, let me explain. Take a look at these paintings. They're different from his previous work. While his past work leans more classical, his new work seems to be looser, more impressionistic. After a trip to Giverny in 1885, Sargent learned to paint in a new way, and he learned this technique from a fellow artist and friend. You may have heard of him. Goes by the name Monet? Yeah, that Monet. So, Monet teaches Sargent how to paint en plein air, which is a French expression that translates to in the open air, and refers to the act of painting outside. Remember that song from the beginning of the video, Ye Shepherds Tell Me? Well, Sargent and his friends would often gather around the piano to sing it while living together at painter F.D. Millet's home in Broadway. And while this song would serve as inspiration for the title of Sargent's next piece, it was actually while drifting on the Thames that Sargent saw Chinese lanterns hanging from trees and lilies that sparked the idea for the painting's subject matter. So after being inspired by the striking visuals of the lanterns, catchy lyrics of Ye Shepherds Tell Me, and the new painting technique taught by Monet, Sargent soon began working on his next painting. And with this new piece, Sargent aimed to capture the magical lighting of twilight by painting en plein air, the Impressionist way. This meant capturing the natural light in real time, which sounds lovely until you realize that twilight only lasts for 2 minutes. So how did he do it? Let me set the scene. The sun has almost set, and Sargent has just finished up a game of tennis outside on the lawn. He drops his racket and heads over to the barn where he retrieves his canvas and paints. After setting up in the garden, he poses his models and takes a few steps back as he waits until the light is just right. As twilight arrives, he jumps forward, rapidly dabbing paint on the canvas, working furiously before he loses the light. After the sun sets, Sargent carries his painting back to the barn to await the next evening. This is the routine that Sargent repeats every evening for 2 years. Now, I don't know about you, but that's commitment. Carnation Lily Lily Rose features 2 young girls lighting paper lanterns at dusk in an English garden. The 2 girls in the painting are named Dolly and Polly Barnard, daughters of artist Frederick Barnard. Dolly is on the left, while her sister Polly is on the right. The girls are standing in a bed of burgundy, cream, and yellow carnations, concentrating as they carefully light their lanterns. Pink and white roses surround them, while white lilies tower above them. They both wear long white dresses that reflect the warm orange light coming from the lanterns, while the pink and purple hues of twilight blanket the entire composition. They are surrounded by 8 more paper lanterns, each emitting the same orange glow that contrasts beautifully against the dark green hues of the foliage. If you look closely, you'll notice that there are a lot of variations of green. While some areas lean warm, like over here, next to the lilies, others tend to lean much cooler, like over here, next to the carnations. Sargent's ability to capture this change in lighting not only shows how long twilight lasts, but also just how little time he had. Now that we know this piece doesn't just demonstrate Sargent's technical ability, but also his determination and persistence to work on this painting for 2 years. So how did the public react to this piece? Well, in 1887, Sargent presented Carnation Lily Lily Rose at the Royal Academy Summer Exhibition. The reaction was mixed. Some criticized his Frenchified style, but eventually the painting was praised and even purchased by the Tate Gallery, where it continues to hang to this day. That same year, Sargent traveled to America, where he was practically mobbed by people wanting to commission him. And so with Carnation Lily Lily Rose, Sargent restored his reputation and saved his career. Hey, wait! Remember that painting, Madame X? The backlash was so intense that Sargent had to leave town. But what about her? Surely she had her happy ending too, right? Let me know if you're interested in learning about the woman behind Madame X and how Sargent got absolutely roasted by Parisian society.